My beloved child. Before this moment slips past you, let your heart become still. Somewhere inside this fictional story, beneath the music of a wedding and the gentle glow of candlelight, someone is discovering a truth they can no longer hide from themselves. They are surrounded by flowers, laughter, and smiling faces. Yet all they can see is you. Not as you were during the difficult days. Not as you appeared when uncertainty stood between you. They see you dressed in white, walking toward them with a look so peaceful that, for one breathless second, the entire room disappears. And what happens next changes the meaning of everything they thought they understood about love. Imagine the scene. Late afternoon sunlight pours through tall windows, covering the ceremony hall in gold. White petals line the aisle. A violin begins playing softly as guests turn toward the entrance. Your soulmate is seated several rows from the front, surrounded by people who believe they are calm. But they are not calm. They accepted the invitation believing this wedding would be ordinary. They thought they would congratulate the couple, smile for photographs, eat dinner, and return home without anything inside them changing. They were mistaken. Because the moment the music begins, something buried deep within their heart rises without permission. A memory of you. Not a loud memory. Not one they deliberately invited. It arrives like rain touching a window in the middle of the night, quiet, unexpected, and impossible to ignore. They remember the way you once looked at them when you were trying to understand what they could not explain. They remember a small conversation that meant far more than they admitted. They remember the warmth in your voice, the patience in your silence, and the moment you almost asked them to stay. Almost. That one word follows them everywhere. They almost told you the truth. They almost reached for your hand. They almost chose courage instead of fear. And now, while everyone around them waits for another person to walk down the aisle, your soulmate suddenly sees a vision created by their own longing. You. You are standing at the entrance in a white dress, surrounded by light. Your eyes are fixed on them. There is no confusion on your face. No distance. No unanswered question. Only recognition. Their breath catches. For one impossible heartbeat, they forget whose wedding they are attending. Someone seated nearby quietly asks, "Are you all right?" Your soulmate nods, but their hands have already revealed the truth. Their fingers are trembling. Their eyes are shining. And the answer they give is so soft that no one else hears it. "I just saw the life I was supposed to protect." Let those words settle for a moment, because this is where the mystery opens. Why would they see you now? Why here? Why in white? They have thought about you many times, but never like this. Never with such clarity. Never with the unmistakable feeling that their heart has reached a decision before their mind has found the courage to accept it. The doors open. The actual bride appears, and every guest rises. Your soulmate rises too, but something inside them remains seated beside the memory of you. Their eyes follow the bride, yet their heart paints your face over every future they once refused to imagine. A home filled with morning light. 2 cups resting beside an open window. A quiet road taken together. A difficult season survived without letting go. A garden where laughter returns after years of waiting. None of these images are grand. That is what makes them powerful. Your soulmate does not suddenly dream of perfection. They dream of presence. Your presence. And that realization frightens them, because they know what they have been pretending. They told themselves they needed more time. They said life was too complicated. They convinced themselves that distance was wisdom and silence was protection. They believed that if they kept their emotions hidden long enough, the longing would eventually become smaller. But longing does not always disappear. Sometimes it becomes a door. And today, at someone else's wedding, that door has opened. Perhaps you have wondered whether you mattered to this person. Perhaps their silence made you question moments that once felt real. Perhaps you replayed conversations, searching for a sign that you had misunderstood everything. This story does not ask you to chase anyone or surrender your peace. It offers a gentler possibility. Sometimes another person's hesitation says more about the depth of their fear than the absence of their feelings. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that now. The ceremony continues. The officiant speaks about patience, kindness, and a love that does not delight in confusion. Those familiar biblical themes move through the room like light across water. Love is described not as a passing emotion, but as a choice that remains honest when fear would rather hide. Your soulmate lowers their eyes. One sentence reaches the place they have guarded most carefully: love rejoices with truth. Truth. The word feels personal. Because the truth is that they have compared every connection to what they felt with you. The truth is that your absence has entered rooms before they did. The truth is that even when they tried to appear unbothered, something inside them kept listening for your voice. And the most unsettling truth of all is this: they did not come to this wedding alone merely because no one was available to accompany them. They came alone because bringing someone else would have felt dishonest. That is the first revelation. But it is not the largest one. A promise is read aloud at the altar. The groom's voice shakes slightly, and the bride smiles through her tears. The room becomes quiet enough to hear the wind moving through the trees outside. Your soulmate looks toward the altar. Again, they see you. This time the image is different. You are not only wearing white. You are holding something close to your heart, a folded letter they recognize even though it has never physically existed. It represents every word you wished they had said. Every explanation you waited for. Every honest sentence that was delayed by pride, timing, and fear. In this inner vision, you do not hand them the letter. You turn away. That is when the joy in their imagined future becomes urgency. They understand that love cannot live forever in the safety of imagination. A beautiful possibility can be lost when no one has the courage to give it a voice. Their hand moves toward their phone. Then stops. Your name is still there. They have opened your conversation more times than you would ever know. Some nights they typed entire messages and erased them before morning. Other times they stared at the empty space, hoping the right words would arrive. But the right words were never the problem. Courage was. Now the phone rests against their palm while the ceremony continues. The screen remains dark, yet your name feels brighter than everything around them. They remember the last time they nearly contacted you. It was late. Rain moved across the streets, and the whole world seemed quieter than usual. They had written, "There is something I should have told you a long time ago." They read it 3 times. Then deleted it. Why? Not because it was untrue. Because it was true enough to change everything. Stay near this unfolding scene, because the wedding has only begun to uncover what they have been hiding. At the front of the room, the couple exchanges rings. Applause rises. Everyone smiles. Yet your soulmate feels an ache shaped strangely like hope. They imagine placing a ring on your hand, not as ownership, not as a fantasy of rescuing one another, but as a promise to stop running from honest love. Then another memory surfaces. A day when you were carrying more than you revealed. Perhaps it was family pressure. Perhaps it was loneliness, financial strain, or a prayer that seemed to receive no answer. They noticed something different in your eyes, but they did not ask the question their heart wanted to ask. Who is taking care of you while you take care of everyone else? They wish they had asked. They wish they had told you that your strength did not make you unworthy of tenderness. They wish they had understood that the people who appear strongest are often the ones who have learned to hide their tears most carefully. Today, they finally understand something about you. You were never asking them to solve your entire life. You were asking them to be real. That recognition enters their heart with such force that they must look away from the altar. A child in the row ahead turns and smiles at them, holding a white flower that has fallen from the aisle. Without saying anything, the child offers it. Your soulmate accepts it. The flower is small, but its meaning feels enormous. A fragile white bloom resting in their hand while your image remains in their mind. A beginning can be delicate. A beginning can also be brave. They close their fingers gently around the stem, and a thought arrives. What if it is not too late? That question changes the emotional current of the day. Until now, they believed the past was a locked room. They assumed the distance between you had become permanent simply because neither of you knew how to cross it. But some doors are not locked. They are only waiting for someone to knock. The guests begin leaving the ceremony hall and moving toward the reception. Your soulmate remains seated for a few extra seconds. White petals are scattered across the floor. Sunlight has shifted from gold to amber. They stare at the empty aisle and imagine you walking toward them again. Only now, your expression has changed. There is love in your eyes, but there is also a question. Why did you wait so long? They have no easy answer. Fear would sound too small. Timing would sound too convenient. Pride would sound too honest. And yet the answer is made of all three. They were afraid that if they fully admitted how much you meant, they would also have to admit how much they could lose. So they tried to avoid the risk by refusing to name the love. But unnamed love can still leave a visible absence. They see that absence everywhere now. In the empty chair beside them. In the photographs where their smile never reaches their eyes. In the songs they skip too quickly. In the future they describe without excitement. The wedding did not create their feelings for you. It removed the place where those feelings had been hiding. Outside, the evening air is cool. Guests gather beneath strings of warm lights. Glasses sparkle on long tables. Somewhere beyond the garden, a river carries the last reflection of daylight toward the horizon. Your soulmate walks slowly, still holding the white flower. A friend approaches, the one person who has always suspected more than your soulmate admitted. You disappeared during the ceremony, the friend says. I was sitting right there. No, the friend replies gently. Your body was there. You were somewhere else. Your soulmate looks down at the flower. They could laugh it away. They could change the subject. That is what they usually do when a conversation moves too close to you. But something has changed. I saw them, your soulmate whispers. The friend does not ask who. They already know. Where? Everywhere. The answer hangs between them. Your soulmate describes the white dress, the aisle, the sudden vision of a future that felt more real than the wedding in front of them. They confess that, for a moment, they wanted to stand up and speak your name. The friend listens carefully. Then asks one question. If you can see a future with them so clearly, why are you still living as though they meant nothing? Your soulmate cannot answer. Not immediately. The music from the reception drifts into the garden. Couples begin moving toward the dance floor. Laughter rises beneath the lights, but the silence between your soulmate and their friend becomes the most important sound of the evening. At last, your soulmate says, "Because I thought I had already ruined it." The friend's response is not what they expect. What if they are not waiting for perfection? What if they are only waiting for honesty? Something inside your soulmate breaks open, not in despair, but in recognition. Honesty. Not a perfect plan. Not a dramatic promise. Not an explanation for every silence. Just truth. You may know what it feels like to wait for truth. To sense that something meaningful exists beneath the surface while receiving only fragments. To feel hope one day and doubt the next. But hear the wisdom inside this fictional moment. Your worth is not measured by another person's speed of understanding. A delayed realization does not diminish the light you carried from the beginning. You were never difficult to love. You may simply have been encountered by someone who did not yet know how to remain present before something real. At the reception, the bride and groom enter to applause. Your soulmate returns to their table, but their friend's question follows them. What if honesty is enough to begin? Dinner is served. Conversations overlap. A woman at the table talks about how the couple first met. Someone else shares a humorous memory. Your soulmate smiles at the appropriate moments, but under the table, their thumb moves across the edge of their phone. Your conversation is still open. They type 3 words. I saw you. They pause. The message looks strange without context. They erase it. Then they write. I'm at a wedding, and something happened that I cannot explain. They read it. Erase it again. Every version feels too small for what is moving through them. How do they tell you that a room full of celebration became a mirror? How do they explain seeing you in white without sounding lost in a dream? How do they confess that another couple's vows made them realize how deeply they had betrayed their own heart? They lock the phone and set it down. But the story refuses to let them retreat. A song begins. It is not merely a romantic song. It is a melody connected to you. Perhaps you once heard it together. Perhaps you mentioned it in passing. Perhaps it played during a moment neither of you acknowledged as important. Your soulmate freezes. The room becomes blurred at the edges. Candle flames flicker. The voices around them fade. They are somewhere else again. They see an empty road at sunrise. You are walking ahead of them, wearing white, the fabric moving gently in the wind. They call your name, but you do not turn. They begin moving faster. Still, you continue toward a distant doorway filled with light. Then, just before you cross it, you look back. There is no anger in your face. That would be easier. There is tenderness. And tenderness tells them that you once understood more than they realized. The vision disappears when someone touches their shoulder. It is the bride. She has moved from table to table greeting guests, but when she reaches your soulmate, her expression becomes unexpectedly serious. "I'm glad you came," she says. Your soulmate congratulates her, trying to steady their voice. The bride looks at the white flower beside their plate. "Where did you get that?" "A child gave it to me after the ceremony." The bride smiles slowly, but there is surprise in her eyes. That flower wasn't part of the aisle arrangement. Your soulmate looks down. The bloom is unlike the others decorating the room. The wedding flowers are roses and lilies. This is something smaller, simpler, a white wildflower. A flower connected to a memory of you. The realization sends a quiet wave through them. Once, you spoke about that flower. Maybe it grew near a childhood home. Maybe you saw it on a walk together. Maybe it appeared in a photograph you shared. The detail would mean nothing to anyone else. To your soulmate, it means everything. Again, this is a story-shaped mirror, not a prediction carved into stone. Its purpose is to reveal how meaning sometimes hides inside the smallest things. A song. A flower. A seat left empty. A name that still carries warmth. The bride notices your soulmate's expression. "Who are you thinking about?" she asks. They could avoid the question. Instead, for the first time that evening, they speak your name aloud. The effect is immediate. The bride's eyes widen. "You mean that person?" Your soulmate looks up sharply. "What do you mean?" The bride glances across the room as if deciding whether she should continue. Then she sits in the empty chair beside them, gathering the fabric of her dress. "There's something you don't know," she says. Now the wedding becomes more than a mirror. It becomes a doorway into a hidden truth. Your soulmate's heartbeat quickens. They ask how the bride knows anything about you. She hesitates. Not because she wants to create mystery, but because what she knows could change the direction of the night. Months earlier, before invitations were sent and before the wedding plans were complete, your name had come up in a conversation. The bride had heard a mutual acquaintance speak about the distance between you and your soulmate. She had asked a simple question. If they care so much, why don't they say something? The answer she received had stayed with her. Because both of them believe the other one has already moved on. Your soulmate becomes completely still. Both of them. Not one. Both. The bride does not claim to know everything in your heart. No one can speak for you. Yet those words reveal a possibility your soulmate never allowed themselves to consider. What if your silence was not rejection? What if it was self-protection? What if you stepped back because their uncertainty made staying close too painful? Your soulmate has spent so long interpreting distance as an ending that they never asked whether it might have been a boundary, a quiet way of protecting a heart that could no longer survive mixed signals. The thought fills them with remorse, but also with respect. They finally see that loving you would require more than wanting you. It would require clarity. Consistency. A willingness to meet you without games, vague promises, or emotional shadows. The bride touches their arm. "I don't know what is possible between you," she says. "But I know what regret looks like. Don't make a permanent home inside it. Then she returns to the celebration. Your soulmate remains seated, stunned by what they have heard. The room is filled with joy, but now their attention turns inward. They remember all the times they mistook your withdrawal for indifference. Every unanswered message. Every moment you became quieter. Every time you stopped asking questions because their evasive answers had already exhausted you. You were not necessarily closing the door. You may have been waiting to see whether they would ever approach it honestly. The white flower rests beside their hand. The phone waits on the table. And for the first time, the distance between action and regret becomes painfully clear. They unlock the screen. This time, they do not type immediately. They open an old photograph of you. Your smile is not perfect or carefully prepared. It is real. Perhaps the photograph was taken on an ordinary day, in ordinary light. Yet to them, it holds more beauty than every decoration in the room. They imagine that same smile at the end of an aisle. Then they imagine never seeing it again. That second image decides something. Your soulmate stands. They leave the table and walk beyond the reception lights, past the garden, toward a quiet stone path beside the river. Music follows them faintly, but the night has become still. Above them, the first stars appear. They remember how Scripture often places transformation in unexpected settings, a wilderness becoming a place of direction, an ordinary field becoming the beginning of a new legacy, a long night ending with a changed name and a new path. Perhaps that is what this wedding represents. Not a guarantee that every hope will unfold exactly as imagined. A moment of awakening. A place where your soulmate can no longer return to the version of themselves that pretended not to care. They look at their reflection in the dark water. What am I afraid of? They whisper. The answer comes from within. They are afraid you will say it is too late. They are afraid you will ask why they waited. They are afraid they will finally offer the truth only to discover that you have learned to live without it. But beneath those fears is something stronger. They are more afraid of never trying. A breeze moves across the river, carrying the distant sound of applause. Your soulmate closes their eyes. Again, they see you in the white dress. This time you are not walking away. You are standing beneath an arch covered in green leaves and small white flowers. Morning light surrounds you. Your eyes hold both love and wisdom. In the vision, you say nothing. But your expression asks a question. Will you come to me honestly, or only when you are lonely? That question reaches deeper than longing. Your soulmate understands that contacting you cannot be an impulsive escape from the emotions of a wedding. They cannot offer you one beautiful message and then return to uncertainty. If they approach you, they must arrive differently. With truth that remains true tomorrow. With intention that survives discomfort. With patience that does not demand an immediate answer. With respect for whatever you choose. This is the second great revelation. They do not merely want you. They want to become someone capable of meeting your heart without making it carry their confusion. For a long moment, they remain beside the river. They think of the pressures you may have faced without telling them. The nights you questioned your purpose. The dreams you postponed while caring for everyone else. The prayers you whispered when no one was listening. They cannot erase those nights. But they can stop adding uncertainty to them. Your soulmate opens the voice recorder. Text feels too easy to hide behind. They want you to hear the truth in their breathing, the vulnerability in their pauses, and the sincerity they can no longer disguise. The recording begins. For several seconds, they say nothing. Then your name leaves their lips. It sounds like a prayer remembered after a long silence. I'm at a wedding, they begin, and I need to tell you something before fear talks me out of it again. They stop. Delete the recording. Not because the words are wrong, but because they have not yet reached the deepest truth. They try again. When the doors opened today, I didn't see the bride. I saw you. Their voice shakes. I saw you in white. I saw a future I have been pretending not to want. And for the first time, I understood that my silence may have made you believe you were alone in what you felt. They pause. A tear catches the reflection of the garden lights. I don't know what you feel now. I don't know whether I still have a place in your heart. But I know I cannot keep treating fear as if it were wisdom. This time they do not delete it. They continue. You deserved honesty from me. You deserved clarity. I cared more deeply than I admitted, and I stepped back because what I felt was real enough to frighten me. That was not fair to you. The river moves quietly beside them. I am not asking you to forget anything. I am not asking for an answer tonight. I only need you to know that when I imagined a life built on truth, the person standing beside me was you. Their thumb hovers over the stop button. But one final sentence remains. The sentence they have never been brave enough to say. They draw a slow breath. Then footsteps sound behind them. Your soulmate turns. The friend from the garden is standing several feet away, holding something found beneath your soulmate's chair after they left the reception. Not the white flower. Not the phone. A sealed envelope. Your soulmate's name is written across the front. But beneath it, in handwriting they recognize instantly, are 4 words that make the night fall completely silent. Only open this when you finally see me in white.